Tonight, another look at the 31,000 Yanks living in Iran. Military, diplomats, teachers, technicians, businessmen and women and their families. At the time we filmed this story, the then U.S. Ambassador Richard Helms predicted there'd be 50,000 Americans in Iran by 1980. Why? Why so many? Because Iran has oil, Iran has money, and the Shah of Iran is trying for a great industrial leap forward, trying to propel his country ahead by a century in the space of a single generation. To do that, he needs Yanks. Bob Monroe is one of them. He and his wife and son arrived about a year ago. Bob had been a combat helicopter pilot in Vietnam. When he went home to Maryland, he ran bulldozers, but he yearned to fly again. Iran offered that chance as a teacher, as a pilot instructor for the Shah's growing helicopter squadrons. It's families like the Monroes who have established the American beachhead in Iran.
Now about 27 minutes here before 11 o'clock in the morning on NIRT International with the AWC Group and an all-day sightseeing tour of Tehran. Lunch will also be included.
You know, the American Women's Club General Membership meeting is scheduled for Tuesday at 9:30 at the Hilton.
All AWC members who wish to participate in the Saturday Morning Bowling League must register now.
Logistics engineers will hold their next monthly meeting in the Caravanserai restaurant. Members are asked to
publicize any event about your club, school, or organization.
There are some interesting exhibitions going on at the Iran American Society from now through the 26th in galleries 1 and 2 from 5 until 8.
And here are the news headlines at 11 o'clock.
Play it smart. If you have a drinking problem, get help. It could save your whole
58
future.
degrees outside, looking for a high today of 74 degrees.
This is an American ghetto in Iran, Tehran American School. 3,200 students who spend 7 hours a day, 5 days a week inside these walls. And their weekend activities are mostly managed by the school as well. To gain admission, their parents must hold an American passport and be able to spend $2,400 a year for their tuition. The parents of most of these youngsters are middle-aged, middle management, though there are some blue-collar parents, too. The students get just about the same curriculum they'd get back home, for instance, in Bedford, Texas, with one addition, a stab at Farsi, the Persian language. But the problem is few of them get to know much about Iran and the Iranians, for they seldom leave their gilded ghetto. And some of the youngsters are unhappy about that.
I think gives them a false sense of security. Oh, I'm back in the States. I'm not really in Iran. Because most of them don't want to be here, which is an awful thing to say, but that's the way it is. They don't enjoy being away from a place where you can speak English to everyone and everyone will understand you. They don't want to miss out on the hamburger stands and walking down and getting a Coke anytime you wanted one.
A lot of kids here just make the school and the football games and the American Community Center their home. That way, they have a small America right here.
School busing in Tehran is no issue. There is no argument about it. Because the American community is plagued by the fear that a terrorist group like the Islamic Marxists who oppose the Shah will strike at him through these American children. Already they have killed 6 adult Americans, so door-to-door delivery for these children is a must. American families are briefed by the U.S. Embassy on how to protect themselves. Even Ambassador Richard Helms, ex-CIA boss, got a death threat.
There is no doubt that there are certain elements in the world that would like to see the alliance between Iran and the United States broken apart. One of the ways to make it difficult for the United States to work with Iran is to kill Americans in Iran, which in turn will make Americans feel that it's dangerous to come here, and that in turn will affect the programs that the two countries have going together.
How serious is the opposition here, the urban guerrillas?
It's a relatively small group, maybe 100, 200 at the most, that they are the kind of individuals who, when they're arrested, commit suicide on the spot, either by blowing themselves up with a hand grenade or taking a tablet that will kill instantly. So that they've been highly trained and they have been motivated, and there's no doubt about it that the way they do these jobs is professional.
It was at this spot in the suburbs of Tehran one morning last August that 3 American civilians who worked at Rockwell International on something called Project Ibex, an electronic surveillance system, were ambushed in their car and gunned down by urban guerrillas. The year before, 2 American colonels had been ambushed in the same way. A protest against the Shah's dependence on American electronic know-how, on the American military. One doesn't think of Americans as migrant workers, and yet that's what a good many of them here in Iran are. Aircraft maintenance men, technicians, helicopter instructor pilots who worked in Vietnam. They couldn't find work now at home, and so they came here, attracted by the boom. The Shah needs Americans to keep his billion-dollar Air Force from rusting on the runways. These new arrivals work for Bell Helicopter, the largest employer of Americans here. With dependents, some of them from past duty in Indochina, the Bell family numbers 6,000 U.S. citizens. These families are about to suffer culture shock.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Isfahan, Iran. We are here to assist you.
They get a 3-week orientation course: how to find a house, how to shop, how to treat Iranians, and what to expect from them.
Here, the fact that basic religion is Islamic or Muslim. Therefore, when you go into the bazaar area or in general shopping, please watch what you wear. I would not recommend wearing shorts. We should respect the tradition of the country here.
Most Americans acknowledge they have come here for the money, but our pilot instructor, Bob Monroe, is disillusioned.
I came here for the money and for adventure. But getting back into flying is why I came here. Doing a job you enjoy. That's the American dream, of course. But as it turned out, the company I worked for was not totally honest with me. Perhaps I didn't ask enough questions, but in Bedford, where they originate, I was painted a slightly different picture than the one that I found.
What did Bell Helicopter tell you that you were going to get here, or what life was going to be like that it isn't?
Well, they said, for example, that there was transportation. Well, that may not sound like much, except, well, I was given money when I arrived, but I was not given enough to cover a car, a house, housing, and this type of thing. I found no help when I arrived. For example, I got a car through a taxi driver and a house through a bartender.
Since we were there, Bob's wife and his 6-year-old son have gone home to Maryland. She didn't want to cope anymore with life in Isfahan. No relatives, no telephone, no supermarket. She was bored. Bob stayed behind to serve out his contract.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
A Senate Foreign Relations Committee report warns that Iran is so dependent on American advisors that it couldn't go to war any time in the foreseeable future without American instructors, technicians, mechanics being drawn in. The Shah's military simply cannot operate without them.
Proceed to the flight line and continue your mission.
And Bob Monroe says they are slow learners.
I'd say they're not as sophisticated to begin with. They're a little slower. They're like children. They're motivated. They want to do it. They want to please me very much. You know, whatever they want to make me happy in the helicopter. I don't think they fully understand that I'm not going to be there forever, and that it's as real a thing as it is.
The airspeed is essential. It's got to be kept at 60 knots.
I'll have enough when I go back for a down payment on a mediocre house. And people, the general consensus is that we're coming home as young, wealthy people, you know, and we can retire or something. We can't. We're just, this interlude will be a disappointment.
In other words, the pot of gold is not at the end of the rainbow in Iran.
That's exactly right. The pot of gold is not there.
One American who enjoys Iran is the boss at the General Motors assembly plant, Lew Wilking. He's even putting together Cadillac Sevilles to sell locally at $30,000 a copy.
First big difference, and the reason I'm here, is if I were back in the States, I'd be compartmentalized. I would be an expert in a category. Over here, you come here and you're everybody. You do your own advertising program, you do your own manufacturing programs, you engineer your cars, you do all of these things.
Can you add up for us what a man expects when he comes here from the United States in money and what he gets?
I'm not aware of all the specifics of the contracts, but they're generally given a completion bonus. If you complete 1 year, we'll give you X. If you complete a second year, we'll give you something more. We'll give you like a 30% premium because of cost of living. And one of the problems that they run into over here is most of the companies have given the man a fixed rental allowance. It sounds very adequate in the United States. I'm going to give you $450 a month for your house. I'm going to give you $150 for car maintenance or car payments. I'm going to pay you $12,000. I'm going to pay you 30% premium. I'll give you $3,000 if you complete 1 year. I'll give you $10,000 if you complete the second year.
Hey, where do I sign up?
Okay, the man comes over here, though, and the first thing he finds out that he can't rent a house for $450. He'll find that he'll pay $1,500, $2,000, maybe $2,200. Okay, if he pays $2,000 and has been given an allowance of $450, this is $1,550 out of his spendable income, which when you gross it up for taxes, he probably had to make a couple of $1,000s a month, and he's wiped out.
Overseas Americans like Lew Wilking used to get a tax break. Their first $25,000 in salary used to be tax exempt. Now they have to pay on all but $15,000, which means a big tax increase for most of them.
The tax thing, very simply, the companies that have all these American people over here are going to have to tax protect those people. A guy's not going to leave Detroit or Cincinnati or Memphis, Tennessee, and come to Iran and find out he's taken home $4,000 less than he was when he was back there.
One family that's going home are the Jim Smiths, who've been here for 8 years. Their apartment costs $1,000 a month, and the rent's going up. Jim's a consulting engineer. Maria is president of the American Women's Club.
They think they're coming to the promised land, that they can save a lot of money.
That's the reason they come to begin with.
That's correct. And then as they arrive and find that transportation costs them a fortune, the rent is expensive, the lunches for the children in school are expensive, food is high, especially if they're not geared to wanting to live off the local economy. They find that their salaries don't even go from payday to payday.
It takes you how long each morning to get to your office?
On a good day, it can take me an hour. Some days it could take 3 hours. I have seen days where I could not get there. I just had to give up and turn around.
You mean because of the traffic?
Traffic. Camels, donkeys, tankers, buses, cars.
Sheep.
And just a 2-lane highway.
Tehran has come to look like every other overcrowded city on the planet. Smog, noise, and cars. And Iranians may just be the most reckless drivers on the planet. The fatality rate is staggering, 100 times that of Paris. Boeing Aircraft forbids its American employees to drive here. It sounds, Maria, as though for the American woman, their mobility is restricted.
It's severely restricted.
That's right. They get cabin fever.
They what?
Get cabin fever.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
The women do?
Yes.
Why, Jim?
Their husbands go, they travel in Iran. They go to their work. But the average housewife, unless she has a club she can go to or means to get there, She's in her house.
You can beat the Vikings, ain't no way, hey!
Most adult Americans in Iran are wary of talking candidly about their life here. The Shah does not look kindly on criticism. But American youngsters haven't learned caution.
Steve, drugs and young Americans here. Big problem?
Yeah, definitely.
What kind of drugs and why so big a problem?
Hard drugs.
Heroin?
Yeah. It's so easy to come by. They can get it just walking. There's certain places in the city where they can go, and they know they can get it. And they go there and they get it cheap, and it's pure stuff, and it's stronger. And they can really get hooked on it, and it's cheap. And
Is there much drug use among parents, among the older people?
alcohol. That's their
It's a
problem.
big, big problem. And people won't admit it either.
I know a lot of mothers that don't speak the language sit home every day. And you can't sit in the house every day with being scared to go out of the house or not wanting to go out of the house because you don't know the language. And they turn to alcohol, and it's just terrible because it gets on the kids too.
Well, I did have a friend who, they just didn't like it here at all, the family. And their father got drunk quite often. And when he came home, I was there one night, and they had a bit of a fight, first the father and mother, and then they turned on the kids.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all due to the alcohol.
It's definitely not a place to come if you've got a problem of any kind. I don't care if it's alcohol or marital problems. A lot of people have come over here thinking, a new life, we'll start over.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they find it worse.
If you took a vote of the 30,000 Americans here in Iran, are they disappointed or happy? Do they want to stay or go? Which way would they vote?
I think they would go.